Hello, everyone. My name is John Tui. I'm one of the partners who helps to sponsor the Human Resources Department of the Year Awards, and we're very happy to have this presentation to share with everyone today. I think we've got the last three Excellence in HR Technology award winners joining us today, along with Maura Shankel, founder and partner of HR Computes. And I don't want to take too much time, but I do want to talk to everyone a little bit about the HR Department of the Year Awards. Our 2025 event will be held on November 13th at the Crystal Tea Room, our usual venue, and would encourage anyone interested in applying. It's an organization, I think we're in our 28th year now. Great opportunity to highlight the accomplishments and the capabilities of your HR department. Morris, could we move to the next slide? Great opportunity to highlight the capabilities of your own HR function and celebrate your team that night on November 13th. We have both general recognition and HR Department of the Year, which is awarded based on HR department size, as well as several excellence categories, including technology, which we'll be hearing about more today, but total rewards, employee relations, talent management, diversity, TA, wellness, and social responsibility. There is no cost to apply. You can self-nominate, or you can be nominated by another. If you know a deserving function and want to nominate them, please feel free to do so. And there is no limit to the number of excellence categories you can nominate within. It is a rigorous but not onerous judging process led by Mark Spool, who actually is with us today. And I know from experience, those who nominate and are selected have a great experience, and those who nominate and aren't selected also have a great experience. So we would encourage you to join us on November 13th and to nominate your function for this year's event. If you have any questions, you can certainly visit the HR Department of the Year Awards website, which is hrawards.org. Or you can contact Scott Rosen, founder of the awards, in the contact information below. So we are very happy to be a part of this, one of our kickoff webinars for the 2025 event year, and looking forward to hearing from Morris and the panel today. So, but we also have a new relationship with PSPS. Here are our partners, and can we go to the sponsors page as well? Here are some of the organizations that are supporting us, and without their support, we could not put on the event as we have over the last 28 years now. So, and part of that is developing really strong relationships with other like-minded organizations in the area. One of which is PSPS. I will the Philadelphia Society of People and Strategy, and we're lucky to have Diane Cedar here with us today, who is one of the volunteer leaders of that organization, who will tell us a little bit more about PSPS.
Yes, thank you, John. Thanks for welcoming me to your group. I do represent the membership committee for the Philadelphia Society for People and Strategy. You may know it as PSPS, which is the premier regional network for senior HR leaders and business executives committing to shape the future of work. How's that for what we do? PSPS is comprised of over 300 senior level practitioners representing many diverse industries. And our membership spans a multitude of HR functions. And actually, 80% of our membership has more than 20 years of experience in human resource management. What sets PSPS apart is its exclusive focus on connecting strategy, leadership, and people. Through high-impact events, peer roundtables, thought leadership, it offers unmatched opportunities to engage with forward-thinking leaders who are driving organizational performance. And if we go on to our mission slide, I can tell you that For senior HR professionals, joining PSPS means gaining access to a trusted community where you can exchange ideas, stay ahead of evolving trends, and influence cutting-edge strategic decision-making at the highest levels. It's not just a network, it's a catalyst for transformation and professional growth. And you're all welcome to research us, look for us, PSPS Philadelphia, and we are going to be having a summer social on July 10th, open to all if you want to get to know us. Thank you.
Fantastic. Excellent. So this is me before I shaved, but HR Computes. I'm your host today, Morris Yankel. We are a sponsor of the HR Awards Excellence Award for Technology. We've been a sponsor for the last, I believe it's 4 years. We are an experienced local women business enterprise that helps HR, payroll, and recently finance, last 3-4 years, improve the technology you have, find the right next technology, and then implement for success and change. We can also help you apply for the award. So we would love to discuss that with you. You got a lot of people who would like to talk to you about that, as you saw, but please reach out and connect. Our process, we do not sell software, we make it work right. So joining me today on the panel are Joanna Rubin-Berman, VP, Regional Head of Shared Services for Munich RE, Joyce Hess, who is the CHRO at First Trust, and Scott, I'm going to mess it up, Bice, Italian?
Bice. But
look at that. None of the above.
There's some Italian
I wrote it down.
Bloodline, so all good.
There you go. Scott Bice, Senior Director, Head of Operations, Employee Engagement, and Shared Services at Commvault. All right. This is an open forum, so any questions or comments, you can raise your hand. You can put it in the text. We have questions for the panel, and we're going to go with those to start, but we're welcoming participation. So to start with on the panel, could you please describe your experience applying for the HR Tech Excellence Award? How much work was it to apply? How did the application get received by your C-suite? Anything you want to tell us about when you applied or your team applied for the award? Scott, if you would start.
Sure. Jump right in. So just to kind of start with why, one of the things I always try to keep focus on is really a data-driven approach to our decision making. So we focus really heavily on internal metrics, and we saw the HR Tech Excellence Award really as a way to get an external benchmark. In a way, honestly, it was my first experience with applying for any Excellence Award, so I went into it really not knowing what to expect. And I'll kind of step through the different phases of it and try and be quick here. My first reaction was to the application, and really the questions made you really think and required a high level of detail, which at first sight kind of was a little shocking, but as I got into it, it made sense. My second reaction was really when we were asked to provide more specificity after our first submission. I thought I gave too much detail, and now I'm being asked to provide more information than when I first submitted it. So my learning here really was to provide detail, but also provide data to really back it up. And then the third reaction was when we were asked to actually be involved in an interview about the submission. And I was like, what? I already provided all of this information, provided all of this data, and now I'm being interrogated on it. I'm joking, right? But looking back, I kind of laugh at that. Overall, it was a very good process. Everyone involved was extremely helpful in answering questions or guiding along the way as we had questions. And really, the thing that shocked me the most was the interview. But the interview was actually, I found, to be the best part of it, because it was a great opportunity to network with those on the interview panel, really talk through our submission and dig into the details. But it also gave me an opportunity to pick the brains of others on how they tackle similar challenges that we were facing. And really, the last point I want to make that is kind of tied back to the benefits of applying. The submission really helped us think through and prove out how we measure success within Commvault, and ultimately where we sit within that. And winning the award ultimately confirmed what we believed. We were on the right track, and our key metric measurements make sense, and we're pointed in the right direction. So to kind of tie it all together, lastly, just as a final benefit of the application process, this may sound cliche, right? But met a ton of great people along the way, and really it opened up a lot of other networking opportunities beyond the positives that I've already mentioned.
Fantastic. Joanna?
Yeah, so, we originally didn't think of applying because we just didn't think we were special enough. We had done enough. And so I would say, think twice because you've probably done a lot of things. And it was, through Morris yourself, knowing Scott Rosen saying, no, sounds like the things you've done do qualify. And Morris, you were very helpful because we were hesitant. You were like, no, you should give it a shot. You'd be surprised, right? You've done a lot. And that validation from another peer, an expert in the industry to say, no, this is good stuff was helpful. But I think, obviously, as she said, it's God said, it's the recognition of all the work you've done as you're going through the process. Sometimes you don't pause and think how much you've accomplished. And this is really a great summary of everything that you've done in the year. I also put the team together who is my actual working staff that really do all the hard work in the tech space. And for them, this was an excellent development opportunity to have really thought through gathering the data, presenting it in a way that really painted a thoughtful picture in a concise fashion. So that was worthwhile. And I also agree with Scott. The interview was such a worthwhile experience because you're telling your story, but you're also getting feedback and validation from the interviewers who are peers in your industry. And that was just not only helpful for me, but my team who were in on the interview were like, they got a lot of validation and felt very recognized from peers. So that is very rewarding.
That's great. Joyce, for your organization, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a little maybe more mid-sized than where Scott or Joanna is.
Yes.
And is your opinion here different, or how does it change based on the size of your organization? Because they do give this award out in potentially three categories. So I'd love to have your feedback.
Sure. First, can I give a shout out to Diana and PSPS organization? I'm a member, and First Trust also sponsors their leadership forum, and it is a fantastic organization. And as a learning organization, we like to sponsor those kinds of things. So just wanted to say that. The size, I think, interesting question, Morris, because there's never enough people in HR. We're always lean, and in smaller organizations tends to be even leaner. So to ask my team to do something like this, even though all the benefits were tremendous, it was, I wanted their opinion before we did it. We had a meeting about it. Do you want to do this? And kind of an estimate of how much time it was going to take. But the value is the same for us as it was for Scott and Joanna. It's for the team. It's the recognition by the organization and by our peers in HR. It's just a really feel good thing. Now, I'm a numbers and data person, so I was thinking about how much work was it to apply. So I tried to put a number to that. And, you always have to add 20% to whatever number you come up with. So my number, more time from me, because I was having conversations with people about how does this work, and then submissions and that kind of thing. And then from our coach, because we got a coach who looked at the application and then gave me feedback. And as Scott said, asked for more details, more metrics, and that type of thing. So that was very helpful too, to have a coach in the middle of the process. But I was going to say, for my team, there were seven of us that were included in this application process. And we're about 500 people in our organization. So hopefully that will help the folks on the call. It took us probably 25 hours total. And, then add to 20% to that, because you never think that it's, it's not exact. So that's my estimate. And one of the questions that we had to prepare for this was, how was the application perceived by the C-suite? Well, the C-suite, we had, in our firm, in our enterprise, we had never done anything like this before. So they didn't really know what it was. I explained it to my boss, who's the CEO. He thought it was great that we were doing it. I shared the application after it was done with him, because he wanted to see everything articulated in one place, because all along, I've been giving him updates on where we were with these different implementations, but he'd never seen it all in one place. And like Joanna said, you never think you've done enough. I remember saying this to the person John Ford, who was encouraging me to do this, encouraging First Trust to do this. And I said, well, we've only completed 3 of the 5 implementations. And he said, apply. You're in the process. So you've already done all these pieces. So just apply. So that would be my advice, is just apply, because the process is great. The benefits for the team are tremendous. It's a tremendous lift for the team, and feeling of appreciation and recognition, whether you win or not. It's that recognition is so important. And as we know, as HR professionals, recognition is probably the number one indicator of engagement. This is what they want to be recognized for the work that they do. They want to feel like they're making a difference. And let's see if there was anything else I wanted to say. Another reason is to apply. HR, in my past, this is not at First Trust, but at another company where I worked, my boss said to me, HR is doing a good job if we don't hear anything about you. And so if you're in that type of organization, this is a great way to change that attitude, and seeing HR as a partner, as a business driver of success through the programs that we do. And the only way that anybody knows what we're doing is if you do this kind of thing, and then they realize what you're doing, because you have to tell people things many times before they actually hear it. And in this particular case, I give updates to people, but you don't, like I said, for my boss, you don't see it all in one place. So it was very valuable for that. And the interview process, fantastic.
Excellent.
Because talking about it, I'm sorry, I'm taking a while, but talking about it is a different experience than writing about it. And so you can really dig into those second level questions. So that was a great experience.
That's great. So we're going to move to a couple of questions that are a little more around current environment of HR technology. And so to throw something out there, according to Gallup, employee engagement hit an 11-year low in 2024, with about 70% of full-time and part-time employees saying they are not highly engaged. And as we've read, there's 23% difference in profitability between highly engaged teams and low engaged teams, along with lower absenteeism, lower turnover, etc. How do you use HR tech to improve employee experience, overall engagement, skills development, or well-being? And I'm directing this one, I think, to Scott.
Awesome. All right. So when I think about HR technology, it's always easy to look at the employee, how we're using technology, right? But the other lens is technology needs to be maintained, supported. So the employee is there, right? But I want to take a step back and also talk about the sprawl of technologies, I think, which can have a direct impact on our employee experience and engagement. So kind of starting there on supporting the technology, it's really how many technology applications are needed, and are we really overloading our employees with sometimes too many technologies. We try to put a big focus on this, and in fact, over the past year, we've consolidated our technology stack really by rationalizing the use case for a new technology versus leveraging another existing technology that we already have. And again, right, the other focus of this is, can we do this without really impacting the employee experience? So then kind of flipping back to the end user, because that's kind of what we're getting at here in this conversation. HR technologies really allowed us to transition manual processes into a system to automate, create consistent experiences, and really reduce errors by focusing on data quality. And that's where we found kind of the strongest value add with technologies. Another thing technology allowed us to do is really create an always on or on demand service capability for our employees. And this is really important in today's day and age where not everyone is working in an office. So that's been a big one for us, especially with us being a global business with employees in more than 30 countries. Technologies, again, touching on that point again, technologies allowed us to serve our employees with really what they need, but most importantly, when they need it from a self-service support standpoint. A human doesn't always need to be available to support our employees, and that's where we can really leverage technology. The faster our employees can get answers, really, and move on, the less impact on the employee, and the more they can spend on actually doing the job they were hired for, which really keeps Commvault operating at a high level.
Joyce, do you want to add to that?
I do, and what you just said, Scott, about a human isn't always required to answer somebody's question or help an employee in some way. That is a bit of a culture shift. So it's this is one of the challenges with putting technology in, is that you are removing some of that human aspect, and so it requires some change management. For us, we have a talent strategy, and we have 4 pillars. The first pillar is to focus on the first trust employee experience. And our first effort on that was to provide digital tools and connected systems, just like we do for our customers. We wanted to do something similar or as great as we do for our customers. And we hadn't really worked on that in the past. And so we had some technologies that we replaced, and then we also had technologies that we implemented for the first time ever. And one of those was the LMS, the Learning Management System. We'd never had one before. And to make learning, this type of learning, available to every single employee in the organization was tremendous. And so that employee experience, people want to grow, they want to be developed. And now we put some of that responsibility in their hands. We push things out, but then they also can pull depending on what it is that they want to learn. And it's just one way of learning. And this also helps their manager to create a development plan that has a portion of the learning online, but then also other ways to develop. Improving the comp process was a tremendous. Whenever you put a technology in, you're developing people's skills, and it includes everybody that has to use it, that gets to use it. It improves their skills too, because they're learning something new, and they realize that they can learn something new, because we're always, as Scott was saying, we're always rolling out new technologies. And if it's implemented in such a way that they're successful, they have to use this. It's the new performance management system. They're going to be using it. And when they use it and they realize, hey, this is more intuitive, this is a better system, I can learn these things. So it has a ripple effect throughout the organization when they have to learn a technology for their job. So I think it touches doing this type of technology improvement, implementation has many different benefits.
Great. I have the next question is around. I did some reading, and at least 20% of companies are going to switch their HR tech providers or add a new tech provider potentially in the next year. So, how do you folks measure the return on investment for your HR tech investments? And I have that listed for Joyce.
Yes. This is good because you have to list this in your application. And so you really have to think about it. And of course, you're always thinking about this. Why am I doing this? Why are we putting this in place? It's not just another HR program. It's not because HR thinks it's a great thing to do. It's because we think it's going to benefit you, the employee, who is our customer. And for employee experience, we measure through an engagement survey. And there are specific questions on our engagement survey around how people feel about their technology, and are they being supported with the right tools? Do they have, are the systems connected? That type of thing. It's not specific to that, but we look at the questions that are related, and then we measure from 1 year to the next. Now, ours is coming up, so we haven't done that yet, but that is our plan, is that we're going to be measuring those aspects. And then also direct feedback from managers on using the new system. And we ask for that. It's not a survey where you get the actual data, but it is anecdotal. I ask in the leadership meetings, what did you think about the new technology? Do you have any feedback? And of course, you always get feedback. And then that can be our phase 2. If there's something that people want that is not available to them at that time. Also, of course, it's better for HR. So if it doesn't save us time, we probably don't want to do it. And it saved us tremendous amount of time that we could measure, and we measured just for the compensation module, 300 hours. So those are the 3 metrics that we've used so far.
I think, I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
No, I was going to throw one other thing. I agree with everything Joyce said, but the one thing that we found a couple of years ago that we weren't doing that really helped with setting the stage for what we were trying to go after with HR technology is include the employee as early in the process as possible. Because the last thing you want is to roll things out that you think are solving the problem, and then you automatically have zero engagement, zero usage because the employee's like, what the heck is this?
I think
really good point, Scott. And it's almost like doing a save the date for an event, for a wedding or something like that. Getting those messages out that this is coming and why. Why are we doing this? Adults want to know why. Why are we changing? I was fine with the old system. Now, some of the things that we did were as a result from employees complaining or giving us feedback that the system was not working for them. So, that's a really easy one because you say, hey, we heard you and we're going to do this. But that's a really good point, Scott. Yeah, save lots of communication.
Smart. It's like in real estate, they say, what are the 3 most important things? Location, location, and location. I think in HR technology implementation, it's communicate. One of the things that we see all the time when you're looking at evaluating what's the next technology or what's the right vendor for us is to identify those things that you're going to use to show return on investment during that process. Naturally, you have to say, what are our needs? Why are we actually looking? And then are we solving those needs as we move ahead? So I think that's a great point. The next question, Joanna, how can leaders, so we've heard, hey, there's all this automation. Not always do employees need a human, but how do you strike a balance between the automation and still maintain that human touch? Oh, you're muted, or we lost your audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. So I like Scott's answer or response to the earlier question. What do employees need? And I think one of the first mistakes a lot of places make is we're going to implement technology for the sake of technology. But is it Is it self-service? Is it automation that the employees value and are going to need? So I think you need to be careful, because sometimes you put a lot of things out there. It's too much. It's not needed. It doesn't meet the needs. So just because we think it's cool in HR doesn't mean everybody else is going to embrace it. So be careful with that. The other thing I always tell folks is test it thoroughly. There is nothing worse than putting out technology that is in a self-service or any automated platform and it doesn't deliver. You will lose the audience immediately and their trust and confidence in it. And for those organizations that are trying to shift from a very human element, high touch approach to automation, automatically it doesn't work, and we need to go back to removing it. So you really need to think about that approach. Does it work? Test small pilot groups. That's the way I normally choose to go. And then I also realize why automation is the future. I think the best approach, whether it's an HR or any line of business that's dealing with employees, customers, whatever, the multi-channel approach is the best. Yes, you may be driving to an approach that says, I want 80% where it's automated functionality. And let's face it, we all know a lot of employees want to change their address or their name at midnight when it works for them, or enroll in benefits. But there's other people who want to talk to a human. They feel more comfortable. They're not comfortable with technology. Or my issue is complex and the chatbot just didn't really kind of answer my question. Why put me through 16 chatbot responses that I'm frustrated? Make it brief. If you get to a point where you've hit 3 response contacts, just as I tell my team, when you're dealing with the contact center in HR and you've responded 3 times via our contact center side or email, pick up the phone. It's the same thing. It has to be simple, but you always have to have multi-channel approaches, how I've looked at it.
Scott?
I agree with what Joanna said completely. I think, just to kind of echo some earlier points, right? Striking that balance between automation, human touch, we always try and keep the employee at the front of decision making, right? So it's instilling that sense of what is the touch points with the human, what is the employee experience of what we're trying to do. My background is in software development, process efficiency. So you can easily get caught up in being overly efficient in design on your process. And before you know it, you have this horrible process for the end user, right? But it's an efficient process and you can churn it through quick, right? So you need to think about where and what you're saving by automating. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to automate. Just keep it a manual process, right? Look at things like how often do you use this process? Are you really going to automate something that maybe happens once a month, right? So kind of factor all of that in. And I guess just one point that kind of going back to keeping the employee at the forefront of it, that I have to say, the employee's voice is important, but it's not the end all be all, right? You want to hear from them. You want them to be part of the conversation, part of the change. But there's some cases where some additional friction on the employee is okay and necessary. So that should be factored in as well, and in kind of the overview of what you're doing.
We talked already a little bit about the best way to get employees to adopt that new technology. Joyce, I'm wondering about, we see things, vendors say, hey, this tool is totally intuitive. You don't need training in order to use this. And yet I read something earlier today that said training your employees for that new technology is crucial to the process. How about in your case? How do you approach that, the biggest challenges around adopting new technologies?
Well, I'll say, Morris, that the biggest challenge is the technical part of the technology, because as HR, we're the customer's number one. That's why we're there, and so our IT resources are working on technologies and other things for the customer, and we're very fortunate on our team that I have an HRIS manager who is technical, and these days, and this is different from when I have done implementations in the past, where you had consultants come in and help you along the way. Now you're expected to learn the technology, not just the outward facing, but what's behind the scenes. You're expected to understand that and then put it in place and work on it and work with the vendor. So it's a little bit different. And so I'm very fortunate to have that person on my team. Plus, my entire team is technology focused. And it probably started with me because I hired half of the team, but the team before, they were technology focused and making it better for the employees, better for us, better for the employees, better for the business. And so I think we're very lucky to have that team. But the hurdle was to have that technical resource. That's a big hurdle for a lot. But having the right people in the team helps. And then also being realistic about what you can do. Because over time, you have a plan. You should have a 3-year implementation plan, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, whatever that looks like. And so don't try to do everything in a very short period of time. Be realistic, because there's all other kinds of demands on our time also, which are very important. So this is like an add-on, your job after your job.
That's great. Joanna, did you like to contribute on this one? Biggest challenge around adopting the new technologies, and how do you solve those?
I'm kind of pausing and chuckling here on, I agree with Joyce, but, I'm a little bit different experience from a global situation. So we have the United States, which is very self-service savvy. I've got Canada, not so much. I've got regions in APEC-MEA saying, why would we ever let employees do self-service? So, I've got the landscape of this as we've implemented technology globally. So what I would say is we've done that just to add, and again, agree with what Joyce is saying. But what I think has been unique is we've used the philosophy is meet people where they're at. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean we stop technology in the different areas. Maybe we stage it differently when we roll out, but they're all going to get to the same point within a year or 18 months, right? But we've also then tailored the education, the communications, and especially the change management around our initiatives. US, like change management. Do self-service, just use a different system. Oh, this looks better, sounds good, right? Other regions, we've had to do a lot more hand-holding in different ways. So my philosophy has been just meet people where they're at and be careful as you implement, know your audience really well. So I had to pause and think, how can I explain all this? But hopefully I answered Morris what the challenges we faced in that arena.
Yeah, I think that was great.
It is good. And let me just add to that, Morris. Joanna, that's a really good point about meeting people where they are in their learning journey. And then how do you implement something, understanding all that? And sometimes what I think is helpful is to have within each group, if you can, have a super user that people can go to, because often they're comfortable with someone in their own team and they might be intimidated by trainers from HR or, gosh, I haven't gotten this yet. So if you have somebody that they're familiar with, that's helpful. But that's a very good point. Where are they in their journey? And we can't expect everybody to be at the same level.
I think that's great. I think that's like the old joke of, somebody looks at their C-suite or at their managers and they say, well, and from HR perspective, I don't think our managers are ready. You go to the managers, they say, we're ready, but our employees can't handle it. And the employees go, is it on my phone yet? Yes. So understanding that, but then at the same time, in a recent implementation with us or conversations about it, you can see that there are definitely employees who are not comfortable with it, or maybe they don't have a mobile, or like my father, he doesn't want an iPhone. So, flip phone's fine. So understanding where they're at and helping them, be able to use the technology in their own ways is key. Chris, there's a question Chris is asking about how are you leveraging AI today? And throw that out to the panel. Any pieces of these new technologies looking to use pieces of AI? Where do you see that impacting?
So I guess I can jump in.
Sure.
and just kind of give our experience with AI here at Commvault. As a technology company, we want to move as fast as we can with any new technology, right? But specifically with HI and really within HR, we've taken a bit of a slower approach. We've really started with kind of in our back office how we can start to leverage AI and really looking at more generative AI and assisting with things like processing large amounts of information for kind of extracting insights for analytics, insights for really finding answers for things. So think about like knowledge bases, support. We really used it that way, but we still kept a human between what's coming out of the language model and is being delivered to the end user. So we kind of took that slow approach. We then really got to a comfort level where we said, you know what, we've kind of proved this out more. And then we started to look at it more from kind of a process by process. So, you know, again, using the theme of support, you know, where are we getting the most questions? Kind of what processes are the root of the questions we're getting, and then we kind of moved AI more out through the concept of a chatbot on our employee portal. So, you know, to give you an example, right? We just went through our open enrollment for benefits in India. And anytime you're dealing with benefits, open enrollment, there's a ton of questions. And we do the typical benefit fairs and post all the content, right? But you still get a ton of questions. So we saw really good engagement, really good response and usage of putting a chatbot directly on our employee portal to really be that person between, you know, our employee that has a question and our benefits team. And we saw about 70 to 80% of the questions just answered through that chatbot and never needing to get to a person. So, you know, that's one of the ways that we've tried to take a slow approach, but really seen our level of comfort in using it grow by proving it out. And then really seeing once we opened it up to our employees, you know, it really was positively used. And I forget, I don't remember if it was Joanna or Joyce that earlier kind of raised the point of just when you're rolling technologies out, the easiest way to kind of kill usage and engagement is to have issues, right? So that was another reason we took so much time in just proving it out internal within our team. So when we opened it up to the larger business, we were confident in the results and accuracy of the data that was being provided. So just one example of how.
No, I think that's great. I know that in a recent evaluation that we did with a client and seeing some of these new, you know, the latest versions of the HR technology vendors, a couple areas that come to my mind for AI are the realization that in recruiting, both candidates and recruiters are using AI in many different ways. Like, you can get a job description very easily, and most people hate to write a job description. So, you know, using that, it can give you a job description, and then you want to review it, you want to make sure it's not hallucinating, etc. But, you know, looking at that gives you a leg up. On the other hand, if you're a candidate, you can take a job description and ask, give me the interview questions that they're going to ask me based on this job description. And give me the answers to those interview questions. So, you know, I think it's really interesting, things like that. But I love Scott, the fact that you're taking it to the next step is more on the data manipulation or data, you know, analysis piece is really fascinating.
At the end of the day, right, I'm sure every company is the same. We're being asked to do more with less, right? And that's where we've really seen an advantage to use AI to allow us to stay engaged with our employees and satisfying their needs without necessarily putting a human there. And there was one other point I wanted to make that you brought up. Morris, you just made me think, right? It's using AI is not always about how can we do this for our employees? How can we do this, to create improvements in a particular process or system? Just using AI as an individual to get you started on drafting something up is a huge win. And anyone that's not doing that today, please go out and learn and start, because it's you mentioned it, Morris, with writing a job description. What is it? The blank paper syndrome, right? Where it takes you forever to even write that first word. AI solves that, and it gives you a draft with a few key prompts. So
it's right up the alley for. I just wrote a blog and posted it, hrcomputes.com, about this. And the bottom line to me is AI, artificial intelligence, should augment natural human intelligence. So it's taking whatever the AI kind of gives you, and you're right, no blank paper syndrome, but it's then evaluating and saying, we do things slightly differently here, or let's add these other chores or tasks or questions, etc. So that's great. That's great. My next question is the business of HR technology. The market size is projected to double in the next about 8 years to $81 billion. So the first advice is we should all buy stock in these HR technology companies. But it is a growing part, and the highest growing part, according to Gartner, of the HR budgets. So I'm asking the panel, what do you see as the biggest trends that are going to be next in HR technology? Recruitment, onboarding, employee engagement, or in any of the areas? I'll start with Joanna.
Sure. Some of the things that I think are really being looked at because where it adds the value, obviously where your vendors are embedding AI. We're with a major HR vendor, system vendor, and that is, the hot ticket of what they're embedding in their technologies, and everybody wants to take advantage of it. The other one is, I think, the employee experience platforms, and this is really a broader company experience, but it impacts HR because we have so much high touch approach, but it's that one-stop shop for employees. Why can I go to Google and type in two words and I get what I'm looking for, but I go to our internal website and I get 25 articles and none of which apply to me. And when I want to start as a brand new hire and I need to put in a travel expense, do I have to ask 12 people how to find the site? So this whole idea of why can't you make it as a simple of an experience for the employee to get to the data? So that whole employee experience layer, that the employee doesn't care if it's your HR system, it's the travel system, it's the learning platform, if you've separated your platforms, there is a one-stop shop that makes that a seamless experience. And I think that's really going to be a key driver. I think the other things are certainly the digital learning and the personalized employee learning experience, not just one size fits all, but how does the system is smart enough to know that I've had this much years of experience, I'm in this type of a job, or I've expressed interest in a new career path. It now then produces here are some courses you might want to consider. Here's a mentor. You might want to sign up for the mentoring program. And that's where the rubber meets the road. Now I don't have to look through 500 course options, right? It's now it's personalized content. And then obviously, Scott's already mentioned, everybody is looking at how to leverage new platforms out there for analyzing data in HR to make business decisions, but not just within HR, because HR data is needed by so many of our business partners, whether it's finance or other groups, and everybody's after this really rich data, obviously securing all your personal confidential data in a way, but having your data warehouses set up and having a very advanced analytic tools that are available that brings that data together, and not just your HR data anymore. People are looking to have that full data warehouse experience. So I can now be pulling in HR and finance and other core content to make key business decisions, analyze my data, be very predictive in my analytics that are coming up. And that I see as of the future of HR.
Fantastic. Scott, I think, did you have something to weigh in here?
Yeah, I think Joanna nailed it. In today's day and age, with employees everywhere, it's a common experience platform. Um, you know, employees, it's tough, especially as a new employee coming into a company, to figure your way out. Um, Especially when you have a ton of different technologies that do individual things. So it's kind of creating that one pane of glass that they can get and access whatever they want. Um, that ties into data as well, and kind of that persona based experience, and that dynamic experience for who you are. The more we can kind of fine tune content for the employee, the better. So they don't have to search through all of this information that doesn't pertain to them, right? So it's really that experience layer, and some of the platforms are starting to come out with a concept of journeys, right? It's how do we guide the employee along the path of what they're looking for. Those are the big things we're looking at right now, and if anyone finds a great tool that does this, please let me know.
One of the other things, Joanna, you just mentioned it a little bit, but maybe as our last topic around security of the data, and I know folks are often concerned. What do you tell people, or how do you prove to people? Do you partner with IT? Is there that kind of conversation around the security of employee data?
Yeah. So, but having worked both at large and small companies, the resource availability to HR to help you with this varies. But the bottom line is, especially at a company our size, we partner not only with our IT group to manage really do the deep dive, and the people who specialize in the data security and making sure those platforms are secure. Especially now, most of us are going to cloud-based solutions. The day and age of sitting on your own servers is over with, right? It's all cloud-based. So it's now working with the IT specialists who check those cloud solutions to ensure the security, doing your due diligence checks, not just at time of purchase, but on an ongoing basis, looking through the annual SOC reports, working with your IT and your compliance partners. So when we go to purchase a new product, we've got compliance, my IT security partners, I've got even auditors in advance wanting to know what we're purchasing and understanding how that data will be secured, where there's risks. And the hottest topic that we have going on right now around security, and obviously our core platforms, we're always curious, what is the strength of them securing role-based permissions and those things so that everyone only sees what they're allowed to see. So we work with all of that. But the latest hot topic that we're getting from compliance now is hiring imposters, people who are coming through and they are someone in a bad character out there that's looking to get into your company. Especially, a lot of us are financial institution, Joyce. We're in the financial field as an insurance company. They're looking for your data. And so really, they're really honing in right now on how they're building secure processes. Simple things such as virtual interviews must be cameras on, right? So that's the hottest ticket right now for us, and I know a lot of companies in the space of securing who the person is. But we have all sorts of partners and controls that we have in place to make sure that our data is protected.
Fascinating.
Morris, can I just add on to that?
Please.
Adding on to what Joanna said, all really good thoughts and points. As a financial institution, we of course have risk departments and cybersecurity groups and all of that, but everything starts with the individual and training the individual about security and how to keep data secure and how to keep the bank secure. And so we do a lot of training around that. So training the individual to be aware and to be thoughtful before they click something. And exactly, I like the idea, Joanna. I'm sure we probably have this in place already and I just don't know about it, but I'm sure my recruiting team says cameras on all the time. That's a really good point. Yeah, that's good. Can I also say something about when you were talking about what's the future And Joanna, you gave me some blue sky thoughts there. As a smaller organization, we're still looking at what's the candidate experience, what are all the things, what are all the touch points, and how can we improve that? Is it technology? Is it something that we're doing? And then moving to the employee experience, all the touch points that they have, how do we make it easier, better, faster for them so that they can focus on their jobs?
That's excellent. And we have 1 minute remaining, in which time I'm going to encourage folks to reach out if you have questions for us. We would like people to apply. We would like people to be the next winner for the award. And I think that's the message that we wanted to get across. So from my understanding, Scott Bice, Joyce Hess, and Joanna Rubin Bourbon found this to be an excellent experience. Things like getting pointed in the right direction, looking at external benchmarks, developing their own employees, the C-suite, knowing about it. These were things, a lift for team recognition. And the last thing to me is it's good for the resume. So, John, did you have any wrap up, John, you wanted to say?
No, Morris, we really appreciate you and our panel and giving us such a rich conversation today. I'm sure there'll be some follow-up. And again, we hope to see you on November 13th for the HR Department of the Year Awards. And if you have an interest in applying, certainly visit our website at hrawards.org. There will be more information coming out about the application process for 2025, which I think does not begin for another month or two. But
That's right.
But look forward to seeing most of the folks around this virtual table in real life at the Crystal Tea Room at the Wanamaker Building on November 13th. Thank you.